I was quite familiar with Boka, the adorable Russian blue kitten who lived at the Green Olive Deli. I'd often go there instead of a closer bodega, just to give him scratches and a quick hello. So when I saw on his Instagram account that he had been taken, I was of course heartbroken. Like many others, I reposted the now iconic photos of the man lurking outside and scooping him up, pleading to my social network that someone must know who this man is, so, let's bring Boka back. Imagine my surprise when a friend texted that he felt gut-punched when he recognized the man in my Instagram post as someone he knows. I begged my friend to reach out to this man, let's call him John, not his real name, and ask him to return Boka. My friend got back to me saying that John refused to give the cat back and had his reasons. See, John is not on social media at all, like, zero, and had no idea of the extent of the outcry for his head, and for the return of Boka. So I asked to speak to John, offered my phone number and he called me from a blocked number. He wanted to tell me his side of the story. Now I'm not going to tell that here because this is my story, and you can read why he took Boka, but let's just say his reasons were numerous, and while he had some valid points, a lot had absolutely nothing to do with anything. But, I thought it was best to keep him on the phone, keep him talking, and hopefully gain his trust. This conversation went on for over 2 hours late into the night, with my husband anxiously scribbling notes to me on how I could steer John to return the cat. John insisted on sending me his statement, which he did from an anonymous email address, and I promised to read it and give him my thoughts. I read what he wrote, suggested he sound more empathetic, and insisted we talk about a Boka exit strategy. John's statement, condensed my empathy for the owner is real, but complicated by what follows. The cat in question had no collar or tag. The cat has been returned by me 3 previous times to the store, and in so doing, many other notable facts have been learned. I have interacted in a substantive way with the staff leading up to what is described next. In short, they know who I am. About 2 months ago I found the cat wandering down 9th Street, on the westbound side of the street, in the bike lane, at almost 6th Avenue, at about 9 p.m., crying and confused. I returned him and suggested they need to get him a collar and identification tags. They explained he does not go outside, and I believed them as the first time I ever saw the cat was on a leash outside the store at 6 a.m. 2 weeks later I found him at 10:30 p.m. across the street from the store coming from the open pit construction site on the westbound side of 7th Avenue in what is now an alleyway leading to the donut shop, again due to the construction. Again, no identification tags. I returned him and was thanked profusely. About a month ago, on a Saturday, as I was walking down 8th Street, I noticed him again, yet this time he was wandering towards the back wheels of a car that was parallel parking. I picked him up and returned him again. And while doing so, another neighbor who was walking his dog and just happened to see me returning him, remarked that the cat had been missing for some time, to the extent that the person stopped asking in the store about him, fearing the worst. I also learned from this individual, his absence was because he had been picked up by another person, brought to a shelter in Manhattan and had just been returned, I think the same day this episode was unfolding, still no collar, no identification tags. This individual explained that he had returned him several times as well. The store security system is highly visible. It's a 40-inch monitor with a variety of video feeds. He was taken openly foremost to preserve his safety, and later coming to realize that hopefully a comprehensive discussion around neglect could be advanced, one extending well beyond obvious points. The 78th Police Precinct the other day was informed of the circumstances, and I told them clearly I have the cat. They explained that no police report had been filed for such a happening in the past 7 days. The path I've chosen has forced to the surface for me many moral questions specific to stewardship of animals as property, and the responsibilities of humans within a community, as they witness these happenings. Moreover, the cat could have just as easily been taken at prior times, or under the cover of darkness, or why wasn't the mask in my hand used as well as the sunglasses and hooded sweatshirt in my shoulder bag? Why such obviousness? There are several other Bodega store cats in the area, for example, Victoria is the rather large cat at the corner store of 8th Street and 8th Avenue, next to Pasta Louise, or Shadow, who was the store cat for the paper store next to Mr. Lime on 7th Avenue between 8th and 9th Street, which has since been renovated and now has a new kitten, Midnight. The existence of these animals seems in keeping with what is normal for a store cat, however, what was happening here felt quite out of bounds, necessitating action, which speaks clearly to my view on many of the other questions raised above. Thank you for your time and attention to this side of the story. Now back to OP. As a local, and someone who works directly next door to this deli, I can also vouch for Boka 1, having a collar too, being microchipped and up to date on shots 3, never going more than a block away to visit other bodega cats. The construction site is literally on our corner most days, so Boka being near it is a huge oversimplification. The deli is legit right across from it. The workers come into the deli for sandwiches. The owners take very good care of him. He's not there as a mouser, although it's probably a much appreciated side effect. He's the owner's pet who stays with him while he's at work every single day. While I understand John's side, he's making wild assumptions about Boka's well-being without actually doing any due diligence. Long story short, while I understand the sentiment, I fail to see the action as well-meaning or productive. Lots of progress was made, and I got him to agree to allow me to return Boka on his behalf Friday evening, to avoid a confrontation with the deli owners. And, to allow him the opportunity to tell his side of the story to the press. Even though I strongly urged that he allow me to take Boka back immediately, the best I could do was to have him think about it overnight. Sure enough, the next morning, he called me at 8 a.m. and said he had secured an interview with a major news outlet, and he wanted to explore that, but still intended on returning Boka in the evening. My husband looped the bodega owners in and said we would be bringing Boka back as soon as possible. They seemed cautiously optimistic. Much nail-biting and hand-wringing occurred throughout the day. Finally, I received a very anxious phone call from John at 5 p.m., saying that someone recognized him on the street. The heat of the story got to be just too much, and said I should get Boka out of his home immediately. My husband and I rushed over there and packed up the kitty, after I snuggled him for a good minute or two, which he happily accepted, and made our way to the bodega. I want to stress that Boka was in a very safe place and was well taken care of. The bodega was quiet. Flyers of John's face were at the register, and I asked the man at the counter if he was missing a cat. He said, yes, cat was stolen. I pulled out the carrier and said, well, do you want this one? I could see the realization swell into his face, his eyes opening wider and wider, and he put both hands on his head. He yelled out in delight, grabbed his phone and came around to make sure it was in fact Boka. There was a woman in the bodega working on her computer. She stood up in disbelief, tears welling in her eyes and spilling over. She asked over and over again, is this really him? She explained that she had taken the day off work to help the owners, even though she lived in Jersey City, as this story really touched her. She was very emotional and gave me a hug. So many people helped to bring Boka home that day. Yes, I helped, but so did my husband, my friend who eyed John, the sweet woman in the store investigating the kidnapping, and the countless people who posted, reposted, printed flyers, and asked around. John is not a bad guy. He acted impulsively and is perhaps a bit misguided, but I don't believe for a second he meant Boka or the community any harm. Cat rescue can come in several different forms. Rarely it's about negotiating the release of a stolen bodega cat. More commonly it's way less glamorous in the thankless work of TNR, trap neuter return, or fostering a friendly stray, or adopting an older cat with medical issues. If this story touched your heart in some way, please consider supporting these incredible local cat rescue organizations with a donation, or even just a social media follow. Let's keep the Boka love going. Boka the Bodega Cat is home bonus content. August 7, 2022, husband's unique perspective, Boka's return. No one has asked for my opinion on this. No one. I am publishing it here not because it is needed or because it brings new light to the nuances of the issue, but because I literally can't think of any other way to make it about me. Am I a hero? Absolutely. This is my story. My wife had become entangled in numerous emotional affairs with various garbage cats around the neighborhood. Many of them hang their flea-ridden hats in bodegas. This particular cat had been abducted from his home by a gentleman who, like my wife and I, just couldn't seem to mind his own business. When a friend responded to her post about the whole ridiculous saga to say that he knew the assailant, we spent a good 30 seconds pondering in silence. A Stranger Things episode queued up and paused at the intro. We should get heavily involved in this, shouldn't we? Absolutely. My wife, a food blogger with a gluten allergy, insisted that she be put in touch with Brooklyn's public enemy #1, and he agreed to talk to her via an unlisted number. What followed was a drawn-out negotiation battle of wills. The catnapper felt he was acting in the cat's best interest. Manifestos were written. Sides were chosen and people's opinions largely remained unchanged. The terms of Boka's release were agreed on, anonymity and some help getting the other side of the story heard. My wife, president of the condo board and James Taylor enthusiast, assured this guy that Boka would be closely watched now that he was in the spotlight. The other selling point was that people would be more likely to hear his side of the story once the cat had been returned. We picked up Boka and then dropped him off at the shop. The owner had gone home for the day. People were happy to see him and that was okay. My imagined scenario of being hoisted up on the crowd's shoulders while a voice boomed out, "Free iced coffees for life," did not materialize. In fact, my wife's late-night decision to tell her story revealed that, when presented with both sides, many people agreed with the catnapper. My wife, a personal trainer with a live, laugh, love oven mitt, will tell you that she just wanted to bring some joy into the neighborhood, but the truth is that we were adrenaline junkies high on the hunt. A couple of basic bitches thrust into the middle of an international caper that had captured the intrigue of a nation. What pet mysteries would we solve next? Thinking about grabbing that adorable dachshund the next time your neighbor lets him pee off his Carroll Garden stoop? Not on our fucking watch. My point is not to suggest that we've accomplished some great deed. Well, actually, that's exactly it, a tremendous and wonderful deed for the ages. Yes, she did most of the work, but who do you think was Googling hostage negotiation techniques for tips the entire time? This guy. I would like to thank no one because I am the product of my own brilliance, and to my detractors, I bid you a good day. I said good day. Thank you for joining me today. Don't forget to connect with each other in the comments below. Until next time, be kind, be curious, and I'll catch you in the next video. Corner Stories signing off.